Woman now charged with murder for a deadly shooting on the west side. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Donaldson.
And I'm Chelsea Helms. Prosecutors say it was road rage that led to a man bleeding out behind the wheel. CBS 4's Jesse Wells has more on the deadly traffic dispute.
According to court records, the victim was stopped behind the suspect at a red light here on 38th Street. After the light turned green and the suspect didn't move, the victim honked his horn. Prosecutors believe that honk enraged the suspect, who fired one shot into the victim's car.
Picture this. You at a red light. Light turns green. Car in front of you ain't moving. What you do? You honk, right? That's it. That's all Kentrell Settles did. Just a honk. But see the woman in front of him, 23-year-old Deborah Edenfield? She didn't just get mad. She followed him, chased him down Georgetown Road. And then she shot him through his back window. One bullet, one life, gone. This is the story of how a simple honk turned into murder. And girl, when I tell you how senseless this was, how absolutely pointless this whole thing turned out to be, you're gonna sit there and wonder what is really going on in this world. Because Kentrell Settles was 21 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. He was loved by so many people. And on October 17th, around 2 p.m. in Indianapolis, he made the mistake of honking at the wrong person. Let me tell you something. We've all been there. Sitting behind somebody at a light, watching it turn green, and they just sitting there, looking at their phone, spacing out, whatever. So you tap that horn, beep. That's it. Not laying on it, not being disrespectful, just a quick tap like, yo, the light's green. That's normal. That's what people do every single day in every city across America. But for Deborah Edenfield, that honk was enough. Enough to chase him down, enough to pull out a gun, enough to take his life. You already know where you at. This is Shadowed Crimes TV, and we are breaking down this case with the latest development. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into what happened that day, let me tell you about Kentrell, 21 years old, from Indianapolis. Had people who loved him, family who cared about him, friends who are still mourning him to this day. He wasn't out here causing trouble. He wasn't somebody with a record or a history of violence. He was just a young black man trying to live his life. And on that Friday afternoon, he was doing something completely normal. He was driving around with his girlfriend in his gold Chevy Malibu. That's it. Just riding, probably talking, maybe listening to music, doing what couples do. And then there's Deborah Edenfield, 23 years old, white woman. And here's the thing that everybody kept bringing up in the news, like it mattered. She had no criminal history. None. Never been arrested, never been in trouble, clean record. The prosecutor even said it himself. This is her very first arrest. Her very first charge is going to be for murder. Like that was supposed to mean something. Like that was supposed to make us feel some type of way about her. But here's what I need y'all to understand. Just because somebody ain't never been caught don't mean they ain't got rage inside them. Don't mean they ain't capable of violence. And on that day, whatever was inside Deborah Edenfield came out in the worst possible way. So let's get into it. October 17th, around 2 p.m. West 38th Street and Georgetown Road in Indianapolis, Kentrell and his girlfriend are driving, and they end up stopped at a red light. Nothing unusual about that. Just another intersection, another red light, another moment in a regular day. But in front of them, Deborah Edenfield's SUV, just sitting there. Light turns green, and Deborah, she ain't moving, she's just stopped. Now we don't know why. Maybe she was distracted, maybe she was on her phone, maybe she was doing it on purpose. We'll never know, but what we do know is that Kentrell did what any of us would do. He honked. One time, just a quick honk to let her know, hey, the light's green. That's it, that's all he did. But Deborah Edenfield heard that honk, and something in her snapped. Instead of just going, instead of waving like my bad and driving off, she sat there, and according to what investigators pieced together, she wasn't just sitting there being stubborn, she was getting mad, real mad, the kind of mad that don't make no sense over something so small. So Kentrell, probably confused, probably like, what is this lady doing? He went around her, he switched lanes and drove past her SUV. And that should have been the end of it, right? He goes around, she stays there, or she drives off. They never see each other again. That's how it should have went down. But that's not what happened, because Deborah Edenfield, she followed him. Let me say that again so it sinks in. She followed him. This wasn't a heat of the moment thing. This wasn't a split-second reaction. She made a choice. She put her SUV in drive. She pulled out and she chased after Kentrell Settles, like he had done something to her, like he had disrespected her in some deep personal way, over a honk, over a simple everyday honk that happens thousands of times a day in every city in America. An eyewitness saw what happened next, saw Deborah driving erratically, swerving, chasing behind Kentrell's gold Chevy Malibu, and Kentrell's girlfriend. She knew something was wrong. She was in that passenger seat watching this woman chase them, and she was scared. Witnesses said she was yelling, screaming, and she grabbed her phone. She was trying to call the police, because she knew this wasn't normal. This wasn't just road rage. This was danger. Deborah got close to Kentrell's car, real close, and she wasn't just following anymore. She was yelling at them, making gestures, trying to get their attention, trying to make sure they knew she was mad, that she was coming for them. And Kentrell, he was probably confused, probably scared too, probably wondering what this woman wanted, what he did that made her so angry. All he did was honk. That's it. But Deborah Edenfield wasn't done. She had a gun in that SUV, and she pulled it out. This is where everything changed. This is where a bad situation turned deadly. Because Deborah Edenfield didn't just flash the gun. She didn't just wave it around to scare them. She used it. One shot. That's all it took. One single shot through the back window of Kentrell's Chevy Malibu. The glass shattered. The bullet tore through, and it hit Kentrell in the chest. His girlfriend was right there. She was in the passenger seat. She saw it happen. She watched the back window explode. She heard the shot, and then she looked over and saw Kentrell bleeding. Her man, the person she was just riding with, talking to, laughing with maybe minutes before. Now he was slumped over, bleeding, struggling to breathe. Deborah didn't stop to check on him. She didn't call 911. She didn't panic and realize what she just did. She got back in her SUV and she drove off. Just left them there. Left Kentrell bleeding out in the driver's seat. Left his girlfriend screaming, panicking, trying to figure out what to do, trying to save him. The girlfriend managed to pull the car over. Kentrell was barely conscious. She called the police, told them what happened, told them her boyfriend had been shot, that some woman in an SUV just fired into their car and drove away. She gave them a description of the vehicle, gave them details about what Deborah looked like, and then she waited for the ambulance, waited for help, praying that Kentrell would make it. Police arrived at the scene near 38th and Georgetown around 2 p.m. They found Kentrell in the driver's seat, bleeding from the gunshot wound to his chest. The paramedics rushed him to the hospital, trying to save his life, trying to stop the bleeding, trying to undo what Deborah Edenfield had done. But it was too late. The damage was done. That single bullet had torn through too much. And shortly after arriving at the hospital, Kentrell Settles died. 21 years old, gone, over a honk. His girlfriend had to watch it all, had to see him take his last breaths, had to know that just minutes before they were fine, they were okay, they were just driving, and now he was gone, because some woman couldn't handle being honked at. Now, here's where the police come in. And I gotta say, for once, they actually moved fast on this one. Because within hours, they had Deborah Edenfield in custody. But let me walk you through how they caught her, because the girlfriend, Kentrell's girlfriend, she was the key to everything. See, while Deborah was driving off thinking she could just disappear, that girlfriend was giving police every detail she could remember. She was traumatized, she was devastated, but she was focused. She told them what kind of vehicle it was, described what Deborah looked like, gave them everything they needed to start tracking this woman down, because she knew exactly who did this. She watched it happen right in front of her, and Indianapolis police, they had something working in their favor. License plate readers. Now I know some people got issues with surveillance and all that, but in this case, those cameras did exactly what they supposed to do. They tracked Deborah Edenfield's SUV, the technology picked up her plates, traced her route, and gave investigators everything they needed to find her. One of the officers even said it himself.
I'm a huge believer in the license plate readers. It has been a game changer.
In this situation, they really were, because think about it. Deborah shot Kentrell around 2 p.m. By that same evening, she was in handcuffs. That's how fast they moved. But here's the thing that got me. When police caught up to Deborah Edenfield and arrested her for murder and criminal recklessness, you know what she did? Nothing. She didn't say a word, refused to talk to police, didn't give a statement, didn't try to explain herself or claim self-defense or say it was an accident. Just straight up refused to cooperate. And that tells you everything you need to know, don't it? Because if this was really just some tragic mistake, if she really felt threatened or scared, wouldn't you be trying to explain that? Wouldn't you be talking to the police, telling your side, trying to make them understand? But no, she went silent. And that silence, that speaks volumes. The evidence didn't need her statement anyway. They had the girlfriend's eyewitness account. They had the license plate reader data. They had the bullet hole in Kentrell's back window. They had his body with a gunshot wound to the chest. They had witnesses who saw Deborah driving erratically, chasing after Kentrell's car. The case was solid, and Deborah Edenfield knew it. The prosecutor came out and said something that really stuck with me. He said this case was unique because usually with road rage incidents, you see an escalation. You see multiple interactions. Maybe somebody cuts somebody off. Then there's yelling, then somebody gets out the car, then it turns physical. And then maybe it gets to the point where a weapon gets involved. There's usually steps, a progression, but not this time. The prosecutor said that's not typically how these cases progress. Usually you see more of an interaction. Usually you see multiple steps that kind of lead up or escalate to the point where gun violence is being used. That's not the allegation here at all. Let me tell you something. That right there, that's what makes this so chilling. Because there was no escalation. There was no back and forth. There was no argument or confrontation. Kentrell honked his horn. That's it. And Deborah Edenfield went from zero to murder. Just like that. One honk, one chase, one shot, one death. So Deborah gets arrested. She gets charged with murder and criminal recklessness. And the judge wasn't playing. No bond. She was held without bond pending trial. Because when you shoot somebody in broad daylight over a horn honk, you don't get to go home and wait for your court date. You sit in jail and you think about what you did. When Deborah Edenfield walked into that courtroom for her first appearance, people were watching, the news cameras were there, Kentrell's family and friends were probably watching, the whole city was watching, because everybody wanted to see her, wanted to see the woman who took a life over something so trivial. And girl, when I tell you she looked unbothered, she looked completely unbothered. Walked into that courtroom like she was going to the grocery store. No tears, No remorse showing on her face, no visible emotion, just blank. Like she didn't just take a man's life. Like Kentrell's girlfriend wasn't sitting somewhere traumatized, replaying that moment over and over. Like Kentrell's family wasn't planning a funeral for their 21-year-old son, brother, friend. The prosecutors stood up and laid it all out, told the court exactly what happened, how Kentrell Settles and his girlfriend were stopped at a red light at 38th and Georgetown, how the light turned green, but Deborah, who was in the car in front, didn't move, how Kentrell honked his horn and drove around her, and how Deborah followed the couple and shot through their back window, hitting Kentrell in the chest, how he died at the hospital shortly after. The prosecutor said it plain. He said,
This was literally just a simple honk of the horn between two people who didn't know each other, a seemingly insignificant incident that happens every day in our community, only this time someone lost their life.
A seemingly insignificant incident that happens every day. Let that sit with you for a minute, because it's true. Every single day in every city, people honk at each other, at red lights, in traffic, in parking lots. It's normal. It's what we do when we need to get somebody's attention or let them know the light changed. And 99.9% of the time, nothing happens. People move on with their day. But Kentrell Settles honked at the wrong person, and it cost him everything.
The woman accused of a fatal road rage shooting appeared before a judge for the first time today. 23-year-old Deborah Edenfield walked into court this morning, as you see right there, charged with murder. Police tell us this whole thing began when 21-year-old Kentrell Settles and his girlfriend were in a car waiting to turn at 38th and Georgetown. The light turned green, but Edenfield, who was in the car in front, didn't go. So police say the Settles, he honked his horn and drove around the car. Investigators say Edenfield followed the couple, and they say she shot through their back window, hitting Settles. He died at the hospital.
This was literally just a simple honk of the horn between two people who didn't know each other, a seemingly insignificant incident that happens every day in our community, only this time someone lost their life.
In court today, Edenfield was given a no-contact order against Settles' girlfriend and was not granted bond due to the murder charge. Edenfield did say she had a meeting today to hire an attorney.
In court, Deborah was given a no-contact order. She wasn't allowed to contact Kentrell's girlfriend. Not that it mattered much since she was sitting in jail with no bond, but that girlfriend, she gonna carry this for the rest of her life. She gonna remember that day forever. The sound of the gunshot, the glass shattering, Kentrell bleeding next to her, and knowing she couldn't do anything to stop it. Deborah told the court she had a meeting scheduled to hire an attorney. Real casual, like this was just an inconvenience. Like she wasn't facing 45 to 65 years in prison for murder, because that's what the prosecutor said she could get. 45 to 65 years for one bullet, for one moment of rage that she couldn't control. And here's what really got under people's skin. The constant reminders that Deborah had no criminal history, that this was her first arrest, her first charge. Like we supposed to feel sorry for her. Like we supposed to say, oh well, she was a good person before this, so maybe we should go easy on her. But here's the thing, Kentrell Settles didn't have a criminal history either. He wasn't out here causing problems. He wasn't a threat to anyone. And now he's dead. So what does it matter if Deborah never got arrested before? What does that change? A man is still gone. A family is still destroyed. A girlfriend is still traumatized. All because Deborah Edenfield couldn't keep her cool at a traffic light.
He's loved by so many people, and there's so many people that's going to miss him, and such a precious life was taken for no reason. He didn't do anything wrong, and for it to still happen, I mean, it troubles you.
So what do we take away from this? What's the lesson here? Because it's easy to sit back and say this was just road rage, just another senseless act of violence. Just another tragedy that happened to somebody else in some other city. But that's not what this is. This is about how little our lives are valued, how quickly things can go from normal to deadly, how a simple honk, something we all do without thinking, can get you killed if you do it to the wrong person on the wrong day. And let's be real. Let's talk about what nobody in those news reports wanted to say directly. Kentrell Settles was a young black man. Deborah Edenfield is a white woman, and she hunted him down and shot him over a honk. Make it make sense, because I can't make sense of how somebody hears a horn and decides that's worth taking a life. I can't make sense of how you chase somebody down, pull out a gun, and fire into their car in broad daylight. I can't make sense of how you can sit in a courtroom looking unbothered while a family mourns their child. The prosecutor said, "We need to think before we act, that there are better ways to handle conflict than taking a life." And he's right, but here's what he didn't say. Here's what none of them wanted to say on camera. This wasn't just about conflict resolution. This wasn't just about anger management or keeping your cool on the road. Because let's be honest, you really think Deborah would have done this if it was a white man who honked at her? You think she would have chased him down and shot him? Or would she have just driven off and forgot about it 5 minutes later? Kentrell Settles was loved by so many people. His family is never gonna be the same. His girlfriend is gonna carry that trauma forever. His friends lost somebody they grew up with, all because he honked his horn at a green light. Something so small, something so normal, something that should have meant nothing, but it meant everything, because it cost him his life. Rest in peace, Kentrell Settles, 21 years old. Gone too soon, taken for no reason. And to his family, to his girlfriend, to everyone who loved him, we see you, we remember him, and we're making sure his story don't get forgotten. Because this right here, this is exactly why we do what we do at Shadowed Crimes TV. We tell these stories, we make sure people know the truth, we honor the lives that were taken, and we demand that justice be served. Deborah Edenfield is sitting in jail right now facing murder charges, and she should be, because what she did wasn't an accident, it wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. She chose to follow him, she chose to pull out that gun, she chose to fire that shot, and now Kentrell Settles is gone, and she gotta live with that, period.